All right, hi everyone. Welcome to this live post-game edition of Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel. I'm Adam Benigni of WGRZ TV and Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Sal Maiorana, Highmark Stadium, Orchard Park, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. After a 44-32 wild Bills win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, we're live here on the post-game show as we typically are on Sundays for the early games. We invite you to join in with your comments and questions. We'll get to as many of them as possible over the next 20 minutes or so. Sal, a lot of direction we could take, different directions we could take with this one. But, and from the benching of Keon Coleman to all of this, but I think the headline has to probably be that the Bills found a passing game. And switched things up, and to their credit, delivered on that front where they desperately needed to.
Yeah, they sure did. Josh Allen, had some curious plays today. I mean, it did not start well, obviously, with that ridiculous interception on the second play of the game on offense. He had an early or a later interception. Made some curious decisions on some targets. He wasn't seeing open receivers. But then, man, he really found his groove, like you said, with several guys who have not been on the field for the Bills. Obviously, Joshua Palmer returning, Gabe Davis being activated, Elijah Moore and Keon Coleman were both healthy scratches, and then the emergence of Tyrell Shavers, which I did not have that happening in any way. Everyone was concentrating on Palmer coming back, Gabe Davis being elevated, and no one gave any thought to Tyrell Shavers. He ended up having a couple of the biggest plays of the day. Plus, he continued to be a really good player in the run game for them. So, yeah, it was nice to see the Bills throwing the ball downfield. It was nice to see Joe Brady scheming some things up, getting James Cook involved in the passing game. The touchdown to Cook was one of the prettiest play designs that Brady's had all year. The Buccaneers were completely baffled by what was happening. That was a thing of beauty. And then he got Cook involved on a play down the right side in the fourth quarter in a situation where the Bills needed to move the ball and kill some clock. So that was really nice. I wish, Adam, it drives me nuts that they don't use Cook more in the passing game. With his skill in the open field, just get him the ball and he's going to make things happen. So a lot of good things that we saw on offense with the downfield passing game. We'll see what it means moving forward, but it's a pretty good defense they played today, and they moved the ball well.
Well, especially considering the criticism of this receiving core had been sort of the predictability of it, right? And if you could limit James Cook, that the Bills were relatively easy to keep at bay and shut down. But when you get the running backs involved now, I mean, look at Cook today, 3 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Ty Johnson, by the way, 2 for 61 and a score as well. That's a dimension now that defensive coordinators have to account for. I mean, I think it should be a prominent feature, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ty Johnson's supposed to be this great third down back that they keep telling us, and we really hadn't seen that. He's, he does his part in pass protection, but last year he was a more, useful guy in the receiving game, and today we finally saw something. It was funny on the intercept, the second Josh Allen interception. He had Ty Johnson wide open. I can't even believe that he didn't throw the ball to him, because he could have walked in. It was around midfield, I think. He could have maybe walked in on that play, and he tried to force it over the middle to whoever it was. I think it was Shakir, and it ended up in a pick. But on the play that Ty Johnson scored, it was a very similar situation. He just kind of meandered his way out into the flat, and for some reason the Bucs lost track of him, and boom, I think he made one really good move to get in the open, and he was gone. So that was a nice thing to have back in their passing game too. But look, I don't know what exactly it meant with Keon Coleman and Elijah Moore being out, and then Palmer and Davis going. It wasn't like those two guys had great days. I mean, Gabe Davis had a really nice 22-yard catch in the fourth quarter on the drive where the Bills took the lead for good. That was a big play. He also had the fourth down catch, but that was pretty much it. It wasn't like it was explosive. Josh Palmer did It was the Josh Palmer we saw before the Atlanta game where he really had no impact at all. So it was these other guys, like you said, the backs, and then Shavers having some really, even Khalil Shakir today, Adam, did pretty much nothing. I mean, they got contributions from some guys they usually haven't gotten them from, which was surprising on a day when Allen threw for 317 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see as this offense evolves, or, and it certainly needs to, especially in terms of the passing game as they head down the stretch here. What can you say about Josh Allen, though? I mean, you talked about the rough start, and everybody saw that. Winds up 19 to 30, 317, as you said, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 rushing touchdowns. First player now in NFL history with multiple 3 passing and 3 rushing touchdown games. You know what? I mean, the expression is, right, the Bills go so far as Allen takes them, or as far as Allen takes them. I mean, I think the way he sort of responded within the context of what we talked about and the change in personnel and getting used to a new group of receivers or some changes in that receiving core, I mean, I think that says a lot. I mean, that's the leadership, action leadership on the field that this team has needed.
Yeah, look, I mean, we all know they were coming off just a shitty, horrible performance last week, and they needed to answer to that. And, I was a little bit concerned early because they really weren't answering the call. I mean, he got off to the poor starts. The defense, really big stop on that first possession when they gave the ball to them at the 7-yard line. So that was nice. But then after that, the defense couldn't get a stop for until the third quarter. The Bucs were just moving up and down the field. And luckily, Allen and the offense were also getting it done. They scored 3 touchdowns in the first half. So it was really good to see, particularly Josh Allen and the offense answer the call after last week when they were completely bamboozled by a lousy Miami defense, quite frankly. It was just such a puzzling day. So that was good to see. Now, we're going to get into the defense, I'm sure, at some point here. The defense was not good. They gave up 32 points. They had a couple key moments where they ended up getting 2 turnovers. The Cole Bishop play was great, one of the biggest plays of the game. They had 3 3-and-outs, which were nice. One of them was ruined by a Mecole Hardman fumble. So there were moments for the defense, but there's still a long way to go. We were talking in the press box throughout the game. We were laughing, in fact. I mean, I sit next to Jay Skursky, and I turned to him. I said, Jay, why does it feel like 90% of my tweets today have been negative? And this was around halftime, and they're leaving the field 21-20 in the lead. It's like it did not feel like the Bills were winning the game. And even into the third and fourth quarter, it still felt like, I was tweeting like all this negative shit was happening in the game. And I'm like, they're winning. They're winning this game. I mean, there were 9 lead changes. They kept coming back and finding an answer. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting game in all respects.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Before we get to the defense, it's also interesting the decision to make Keon Coleman a healthy scratch, reportedly because he was late to a team meeting.
Yep.
And McDermott essentially confirmed that in the post game. It begs the question. This guy, in addition to on the field issues, the off the field stuff, I mean, he's really a handful, and he's not trending well.
No, he's not. Adam, that pick is getting worse and worse as the weeks go on. I mean, there was a video on the field today. Thad Brown from Rochester had a pregame video, and Keon Coleman's on the field while his teammates are warming up, and they're playing music, and he's out there dancing and looking like he's having the time of his life. That guy should be in just cold face mode, pissed off that he is a healthy scratch for this game. And he's out there acting like a goofball. I saw that video before the game, and I'm like, you know what? They should cut this guy on the spot. They should move on from this guy and don't even bother, because he just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't look like he gives a shit out there doing what he was doing. I understand it's fun. They're living the life. But in his situation, it's one thing if he was hurt today and he's out there, okay, he's in the vibe and he's, whatever. But he should not have been out there pregame dancing while his teammates are getting ready for a game that he was scratched from because, and the other thing too is, Adam, I think this missing the team meeting, I'm sure it happened. McDermott said it did. That should not have been the reason why he was scratched. Even if he had made that meeting on time, Adam, I think he still would have been scratched because it was performance-based. I saw one of the Schefter or, one of the know-it-all national guys said that the plan was to play Keon Coleman until he missed this team meeting. That's baloney. I think he was going to be a scratch regardless because they made it very clear they wanted to get Gabe Davis on the field. So I think he was going to get scratched. We knew Palmer was coming back. So if you want to get Palmer and Davis both into the game, somebody was going to sit. It turned out it was Coleman and Elijah Moore. So look, they proved today they don't need him. I mean, he gives them nothing. I know it's a year and a half into it, Adam, but really I'm kind of ready to close the book on him and move on. He's such a disappointment in every way. I mean, I know he's 22. Maybe something will click for him at some point, but man, what a lousy week for him to do what he did and not even play in the game then.
I mean, they want to change things up. They need to spark things, right? I mean, I think McDermott, he didn't need the team meeting, like you said, perfectly justified to bench him anyway. I mean, when you're questioning a guy's effort in game, we're talking, this is the NFL and you're questioning effort in game of the guy who allegedly is your top receiver, right? Or should be at this point, or emerging as that, and is doing anything but. Yeah, and I think the team sort of it's a message internally, not just to Coleman, but to everybody. Not that necessarily needed to be sent, but I think players respond to it. I think you certainly saw that today. I mean, Shavers, 4 receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown. Look, this is a guy, and they also were able to stretch the field a little bit, Sal, right? We're able to see them, at least Allen, get the ball downfield a little bit, which is something that's been absent from, I think, there are some arrows pointing upwards here in terms of that performance today.
Yeah. I mean, the classic example here on that touchdown that Shavers scoring around behind the line of scrimmage, trying to buy time. Nobody was open as usual, but Tyrell Shavers did what he was supposed to do. I talked to him after the game, and he said, the only thing we need to do in that situation is you got to go find open space. And sure enough, nobody had gone deep. Shavers saw the opportunity. He took off. Allen saw him touchdown. Go back a week ago, Adam. There was the play where Allen was running around for 25 seconds behind the line. There's video of Keon Coleman out there just kind of doing nothing, just kind of jogging around, not making himself available for Allen in a scramble drill. That play ended up, I forget what even happened on that play. I think that might have been the play that Curtis Samuel finally got open on. But there's a perfect example. Tyrell Shavers. This is a kid who's looking for an opportunity, works his ass off. I talked to Spencer Brown after. He said 2 years ago, Tyrell Shavers was in there in the summertime, doing 2-a-days in the summer because he knew he had to make the team. He knew that he was up against it. It was going to be tough to make it. He said he's I'm one of his biggest fans because of how hard that kid works. And that was a perfect example on the touchdown play, what he did to get open. And then he made a nice catch. That was a pretty good catch because it wasn't a great ball by Allen. And there was a defender that was kind of in the area that I thought might have screened Shavers, and he made a nice play on the ball. So there's the difference between one guy who really wants it and one guy who thinks he's the second overall pick, or first overall pick in the second round. He's got it made, and he doesn't work for it. There's your difference right there.
No question about it. Gabe Davis, huge. This is from Lee B. Gabe Davis was huge today, helped us win. Gabe Davis, 3 receptions for 40 yards, but he was steady. And the thing that I was most encouraged with, and again, this is Davis having to work his way back to being in football shape and get back into the lineup. But what I did like, and what was obvious today, was a good portion of that connection that he had made with Josh Allen remained. Yeah, right. And I think that's a positive that they can build on within this offense.
Yeah, I'll stop short of saying that he was huge today. He made some contributions, as I already said earlier in the show, that the 2 big plays that he did make. But it's clear that Josh Allen, on the 4th down play, Josh Allen went to him. I mean, that tells you right there. That's a guy that he has a history with, And even though they've got to rebuild it a little bit here now, you can tell he trusts him. And Gabe Davis, I think, they're probably going to use up his 2 practice squad elevations so they don't have to make a roster move in the next 2 weeks, I would think. And then once the elevations are up, he's going to get a 53-man spot because they're going to want him on the field. Now, whether that's going to come at the expense of Keon Coleman or maybe it's Elijah Moore, I don't know. But Gabe Davis is going to have a role on this team. We already saw it today, and you can tell he's happy to be back in Buffalo. He said after the game, like, he feels like this is where he's best suited for. Yeah, he chased the money. Can't blame him. The Bills weren't going to resign him. He went and got a lot of guaranteed money. What was like $15-16 million. He's set for life. That was a move that he had to make. But they cut him, and he was more than happy to come back to Buffalo. So, yeah, again, I don't think he's going to be the guy that takes him over the top, but he's certainly going to contribute to this offense.
Well, I think he's, to this point anyway, more reliable than a Keon Coleman, potentially anyway, in clutch situations, given the history, the fact that he's been there, done that, and now back with the quarterback that helped him reach that level in his first stint with Buffalo. We should mention, since we're on the subject of receiver, Mecole Hardman, right, comes up off of the practice squad. Hey, look, 61-yard return. That was a positive. Then the fumble also, which was, disastrous. And now he's got, a calf injury had left the game. But, at the very least, his speed was obvious today. What he winds up contributing remains very much to be seen, especially in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great start. That 61, that was exactly what the Bills need in their return game. And he ripped it off for 61. That was awesome. He fumbled the punt. He can't do that. That was bad. So he ended up being 1-1 today. And then I'm pretty sure it was on the punt return that he got hurt. So, that's the injury of the year for the Bills, is the calf injury, Adam. For whatever reason, this year it's calves. They've got about 50 guys who have had a calf injury this season. So I would not expect to see him, certainly not against Houston, if he has a calf injury. And who knows what that's. Daquan Jones just missed, 3 or 4 games with his calf injury. So, and for a guy, for a speedy guy, that's going to be a tough one. So it's, again, just bad luck. The Bills just had so much bad luck with these injuries. The surprising thing was Ray Davis. Like, where, I don't know where the hell that came from. It was so funny. They the first kickoff to Hardman, 61 yards. And then, because they've got both of those guys back deep. And of course, after seeing that, you knew damn well the Bucs were going to kick it to Ray Davis every time. So I even said at one point, why don't they just bring Davis up and leave Hardman alone so they have no choice but to kick it to him? But then Ray Davis catches 3 kickoffs and took them all for 40 yards plus. Yeah. So that was really impressive. Now, I don't know if that might be an aberration. I don't know that because he hadn't done anything in the return game before today. So if it's an aberration, whatever, they're going to have to figure it out. But yeah, I was thinking, like, what are you doing? Just let Hardman be back there alone and make sure he gets the ball. So, but he's probably not going to be an option moving forward here for a little while.
Ray Davis, 4 returns, 158 yards, long of 44, 234 total return yards. Special teams, significant impact on this game in terms of field position, right? I mean, the Allen and the offense.
They came into the game. They were one of the worst field position starting teams in the league. That encompasses several different things. Their average drive start today on kickoffs was the 44. So that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good when you can give Josh Allen short fields. Unfortunately, he wasted a couple of those. I think one of the interceptions came on one of those short fields, and something else. They blew something else too, but he didn't take full advantage of them. But it was nice to see the Bills getting some favorable drive starts in this game.
All right, so let's talk about the defense and the run defense, right? I mean, again, 202 yards rushing, 136 in the first half for Tampa Bay. Sean Tucker, 19 for 106, couple of touchdowns, 2 receptions, 34 yards and a TD. I mean, that kid, had a hell of a game for Tampa Bay, but it becomes and continues this season-long trend, right? Yeah. And I guess, it remains to be seen to what extent they've the ship has been righted from an offensive standpoint in the passing game. A lot of positive signs today. We'll see next on Thursday night down at Houston. But the run defense has been a consistent shortcoming and, continues to be a big area of concern.
Yeah, it is.
Team.
I mean, Adam, they got TJ Sanders back today. He's still a rookie. I mean, he's got a long, long way to go. So they had Sanders, Walker, obviously Daquan Jones is back, and then Jordan Phillips is still playing. He's still, nothing. So they still have issues in the middle. Now, in this game today, despite the 200 yards, I did think this game, he was around the ball, so that was good to see. The same, they get moved off the ball, and then there's missed tackles in the back seven. There were a couple from the linebackers, a couple from the DBs that let these plays get out. One guy in particular, I'll be dying to watch when I do the rewatch of the game. Joey Bosa just looked horrible today. He was continually crashing down on the inside and not containing on the edge. And Tucker and Mayfield got out there a couple times on scrambles. Just a brutal, brutal game for a veteran guy who should know better than that. I'm going to be curious, like I said, to go back and look and see. But just on first look, you could see that he was just getting caught out of position too often. It just can't happen. So, yeah, run defense. This is the fifth game that they've allowed at least 189. I mean, at some point, when you get to the postseason, if a team is going to do that to you in the postseason, you're going to lose. So it's been an issue for years for the Bills, and they've gotten pretty far in the postseason, but I don't think this team is good enough, Adam, to overcome giving up days like they had today. They were good enough today, but they're not going to be good enough against many other opponents, especially playoff teams.
Yeah, you can't rely on winning shootout games like that, and especially with something as fundamental as run defense. And when you give up those yards on the ground, of course, it leads to a lot of other things that aren't, most of them, not good, right? Cole Bishop, though, is a positive. 6 tackles, 3 solo, the interception. It has been very interesting and excellent from a Bills perspective to see him evolve. I mean, that's exactly, for all his struggles and injuries and struggle to stay on the field and get the reps and time on task, we're actually seeing that growth kind of on a week-to-week basis now. And it couldn't happen soon enough, but it's very positive and a strong thing in terms of the defense to see him kind of reach this level in terms of his game.
Yeah. I mean, this is what they saw. That's why they picked him in the second round. We were sure wondering there for a little while what was going on. The big issue with him was, like you said, he was getting hurt and he wasn't getting the reps that he needed. But now he has really kind of found his groove. He's been terrific for them. Third interception today, and that was a great interception. I mean, it wasn't a ball that Mayfield should have thrown, first and foremost. That was a bad throw. But Bishop made a very nice read on the play and then made a hell of a catch. I mean, that was not an easy catch to make. And you look back, that was one of the plays of the game. I mean, the Bills immediately scored on the next play. That made it, I think it was 31-26. That was the touchdown there. That was a big play in the game. So, yeah, he's been excellent. He had a couple other plays downfield where he had good coverage. He's been tackling well. So that's been a very, very positive development for them for sure. Max Harrison, I didn't notice much today. In fact, I even asked at one point, is he even playing? I just hadn't really noticed him at all. But he was out there. I think they kind of shared the reps. If I'm not, I have to look at the snap counts later. But it felt like he and Trey White shared them pretty evenly. I still kind of wish they would just be done with it and get Max Harrison in the lineup. We'll see. I guess they're being very cautious about that, but I think the kid probably should be, he's better. He's better than Trey White. He just doesn't have the experience. And I think that's what's holding McDermott back.
All right. So once again, a Sean McDermott team and Josh Allen-led team responds after getting hit with some adversity and a pretty large dose of it in that embarrassing loss to Miami. And so it was a game they really, really needed to win in terms of the standings. And now it's a short week. Now and they've got to go against a hell of a defense Thursday night down in Houston.
I don't know who's playing quarterback for Houston, whether it's going to be Stroud if he's back from the concussion. But that defense, we're going to see. we think the Bills, made some progress today in their downfield passing. Now they're going to go against maybe one of the best pass defense teams in the league with an outstanding secondary that it's going to make it really hard on these Bills receivers. This will be a huge test. We'll see what Gabe Davis means to this team and whether Josh Palmer is actually going to be able to get anything done. I don't have a great feeling, even with today's, really good performance on offense. That's a game, short week on the road against that defense. I struggle to see the Bills having a whole lot of success. Maybe James Cook can go off. Maybe they can get that back to working again, but tough test for the Bills this week.
All right. So that is going to do it for this post-game edition of Believe in Bills. Once again, 44-32 Bills over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they now improve to 7-3 on the year and play at Houston on Thursday night. So for Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Benigni, WGRZ TV, Sports Talk Live Buffalo, Monday night, 7 o'clock, Channel 2 in Buffalo. Thanks for being with us here on this edition of Believe in Bills presented by FanDuel.